The weather is about to get very interesting across the United States, where we are going to be watching for several different storms to impact the country over the next 7 days, which includes the return of severe weather like damaging winds, hail, and perhaps a few tornadoes. In addition to that, we are going to be watching for an increasing heat wave across a large chunk of the country. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next week. We are going to begin with that tropical system that really hammered North and South Carolina yesterday. This thing is, for the most part, starting to die out and lose a lot of its intensity, and it never did become a tropical storm. It was only a potential tropical cyclone. Many reasons why, but it never really had tropical characteristics to it, aside from the spin, which is, typical with any low pressure system. But the biggest thing with this is that it absolutely pummeled North Carolina with tons of rainfall. I'm going to show you some photos as well here in a second of that, but this dumped upwards of 18 inches of rain in some spots back over near the coastline of North Carolina. Really crazy stuff there. Back over in the Central Plains and the Northern Plains, we also had a couple of rounds of severe weather yesterday that brought some damaging winds and hail. Not really much of a tornado threat really materialized there. Then both the Southern Plains and the Gulf Coast of the United States are staying dry as of right now. A potential tropical cyclone 8 brought a ton of rainfall to North Carolina. These are some of the rainfall totals that came in ever since midnight of yesterday. So we're talking about what happened yesterday across parts of North Carolina. There were some spots that picked up as much as 18 inches of rain. Near Ocean Boulevard at Carolina Beach was where we actually had a measurement of over 18 inches of rain, and it still rained there beyond the point of when this came out. So that's crazy stuff. We almost had 2 feet of rain in only 24 hours here across parts of North Carolina. It is just absurd what happened in North Carolina. A lot of other places surrounding that were still around a foot of rain. So again, really far southern North Carolina got hammered with rainfall. And this right here was one of the photos taken over at the Green Swamp Bridge in North Carolina. Gives you a pretty good idea that there was a lot of water on the ground, and there still is. There were cars getting stranded in the water as well. This is why you turn around, don't drown, because of one, your engine could literally go out from driving in floodwaters like this, and two, it is also very unsafe to do so. Luckily, the water was not really rapidly flowing here, at least at this time, but definitely something that's a big concern when it comes to flooding like this. One of the most unfortunate parts of this tropical system is that the areas that desperately need rain are not really going to see much out of this. Look at this area over here in southern Ohio and also West Virginia. Many of those areas currently in an extreme or exceptional drought, and that is not really going to change here over the next week, as there's very little to no rain in the forecast in those areas. Unfortunately, it is a really dire situation right now for Ohio that desperately needs rain, in addition to West Virginia. Though I say that, we are not completely done with this tropical system as it continues to move inland. There is going to be at least a low-end tornado risk during the late morning and early afternoon right along the Virginia and North Carolina border. It will be a much lower risk than yesterday, and even then we had a few tornado warnings yesterday. Nothing really confirmed when it came to tornadoes, at least thus far, but we are going to be watching for a low-end tornado risk today, but it's much lower than yesterday, which is good news. Here's what the rest of the morning looks like. We'll continue to see some of those outer bands moving up the coast of North Carolina into Virginia. There will be some rain that does filter into West Virginia and southern Ohio, but just look how light that rain is. Those blues and yellows representative of very light rainfall, and unfortunately we are not going to see much in the way of heavy rainfall in those areas. This is by Wednesday morning. Some showers across parts of Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. We also could see this try to bring some rain into southern New England as we go later into Wednesday, but again, it's not going in the right direction. We really needed this to go more towards Ohio, and unfortunately a lot of that rain is going to be staying offshore or going in the direction of areas that really don't need more rain. So unfortunately, this is not a great situation for those in Ohio or West Virginia. Now let's talk more about the weather pattern that's going to be impacting the United States over the next week, and to look at that, we are going to look at the jet stream. And one of the biggest features that I want to point out to you right off the bat is that we already have this trough that is moving across the northern plains, and this is what's brought the severe weather yesterday. It's going to bring another round of some severe storms today as well, but right behind that, we are going to have another storm entering from the west coast of the United States. This one is currently forecasted to move over the Rocky Mountains, and after it does that, it is going to bring the potential for some severe weather as we go into Thursday into Friday of this week. This storm does appear to be a little bit larger than the one we're dealing with right now, which does give me the reason to believe that we could be dealing with more rainfall as well for those in the central and northern plains. This is by Saturday into Sunday. This trough eventually will move through the central plains, bring the potential for severe weather along its way. But again, the details on exactly where that's going to happen does remain a little bit uncertain. I would say, though, if we see any severe weather on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, it will more than likely be in the central or northern plains or the Midwest. I don't really think any other areas are currently in the zone for severe weather. By the time we go into Monday into Tuesday of next week, look at this activity. It just continues. The GFS model currently indicating 2 more troughs back over in the northern tier of the United States by the early portion of next week, and this could bring even more rainfall and perhaps even some more low-end threats for severe weather next week. And then as we go later into that week and into the following weekend, things become much more uncertain. But as of right now, the GFS model picking up on a relatively large-scale trough over the Midwest as we go into next weekend, which again is 10 plus days out. Definitely could see changes between now and then on that. Here's what the future radar looks like for the next few days. Beginning with Wednesday, we'll be dealing with some showers and thunderstorms in the northern plains. Low-end threat for severe weather tomorrow. It's a little bit better of a shot today, anywhere from Montana and North Dakota back into Kansas and Colorado. Mostly a wind and hail threat today, by the way. Once we go into Thursday, that trough will move into Canada. We're going to see a few lingering showers in the Midwest, but nothing really too out of the ordinary. By the time we go into Saturday, that's the next shot of showers and thunderstorms that we have that could pose at least a low threat for severe weather. Back over in the central plains for Saturday, also another trough in Canada. That one's not going to be really impacting the United States, though. By the time we go into Sunday, that trough moves further to the east. We could see actually a little bit more of an organized threat for severe weather on Sunday from Iowa back into Oklahoma, but this does remain a little bit more uncertain. But we are getting closer to our second severe weather season, so we definitely could start to see some bigger severe weather activity up here in the United States here as we go into the end of September. By Monday, that moves into the Midwest, mostly rain, but we could see another round of severe storms. Again, how intense that is very uncertain. The good news right now is that none of these days look like big severe weather outbreaks or even tornado outbreaks. The ingredients just aren't really there for any of these days as of right now. That obviously could change as we get closer, but right now I'm not super concerned right now about the long-term forecast here for major severe weather events. By the time we go into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, the GFS model still hinting at a third storm entering the country, bringing more rain and maybe some more storms anywhere from the Midwest back through the southern plains, but exact details here are very uncertain, as that is still over 7 days out from now. Now, in terms of total rainfall accumulation over the next 7 to 10 days, the majority of it is going to be in the central and northern plains, where we are going to see many areas picking up anywhere from 1 to 4 inches of rain. Back over in the mid-Atlantic, several inches of rain possible there, but areas like New England and even back into parts of the Dixie Alley are going to stay a bit drier, and Dixie Alley has been very wet here over the last, few weeks, so overall definitely different there. And then back over in Texas, looks like we'll be a little bit dry there as well, at least for the time being, but again, things could change as we get a little bit closer. Now, the temperature trend over the next week is going to be very, very constant. We are going to be dealing with above average temperatures for basically the entire country. That is the big, story today, is that this is going to be what we're dealing with probably for the next week or two across most of the country. The only exception being the West Coast and the Southwest, where below average temperatures are in the forecast for the rest of this week. Once we go into the weekend, we're going to continue to deal with really this large warm air mass across the Midwest and back through the southern plains. The GFS model does hint at some cooler weather in the New England area, and then also a little bit of colder weather in the central and northern plains. But notice as we go into next week, it really doesn't do much of anything. It's only going to be there for a couple of days, and we're right back to around or above normal temperatures. But there is at least a chance sometime in the middle or end of next week that we do get some sort of larger scale feature that brings colder weather to the northern and central plains. That is still very uncertain, though, as that is still well over 10 days out from now. Now, the Cloud Prediction Center is on board with these forecasts, as above average temperatures are likely for most of the country over the next several days. This is going to be from Sunday of next weekend until Thursday of next week. And then in terms of rainfall, overall the East Coast looks to stay really wet. Back over in the northern and central plains looks pretty active there as well, with drier weather, expected across areas on the West Coast, the southern plains, and then back into New England. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.